Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to your weekly episode of the Gersnet Weekly Podcast. My name's Craig Gray, and hosting tonight, this is the Independent Rangers podcast, made for fans by fans. And as always, all of our content is free. You can get us over at gersnet.co.uk with wonderful forum articles and a history archive as well. We're live on YouTube tonight, ladies and gentlemen, and you can rewind it back for lots of things as well. And we'll be on all of your usual podcast providers as always. Just before I introduce my wonderful guest for tonight, I need to give a shout out to our partners over at Forrest Precision Engineering. They are a subcontract Glasgow-based engineering company and have been a big commercial supporter of Rangers for many years. We're absolutely delighted that they're backing our podcast. You can get them over at forrestprecisioneng.com. And you can also visit the Forrest Precision Executive Lounge, a stunning new hospitality area within the historic main stand at Ibrox. For information on how to book this unique and intimate space, you can email the club at hospitality@rangers.co.uk. Joining me tonight to discuss a victory in Glasgow, in the east end of Glasgow perhaps, the wonderful Mr. Stewart Weir. Stewart, that was all right today, wasn't it?
Good evening, Craig. I have to say I'm more than impressed by your ability to reach a level of sobriety that none of us saw coming. A bit like the win today, but I'm interested to find out how many quarts of water or pints of coffee you may have been having over the last couple of hours.
None at all. I'm confident that way. Listen. It doesn't happen often. Okay, let's just enjoy this for what it is.
I think it's a glowing face that gives it away.
I'm glad someone thinks it's a glowing face. I'll take that.
Well, the wee boy off the Ready Break advert.
Well, fantastic. Anyway, Mr. Weir, we seen the team earlier on today that Ferguson announced. I don't think there was many surprises. I think Barry's kind of done his own thing the last 2 or 3 games, so I was thinking, fair enough, he's just done it again.
I think where Barry is having to work maybe twice as hard is that there are limitations, obviously, to the numbers he has in the squad. And I also think there's a limitation in the number that he can trust. And the ones that he does pick or has been picking, I think these are the guys that can change the formation, or if he makes a change to the formation or a kind of change tactically, I think these guys are pretty good at actually taking that on board and making those changes rather speedily, rather than it taking them an hour to work out what they're supposed to be doing. So to that extent, I think slowly but surely he's putting this kind of stamp on the team as being his team. He's picking them and they're doing a job for him. And I think the last 2, whatever it is, 210 minutes plus penalties of action basically says a lot of where he's taking the team from and has taken it to, and he's done well. Has he surprised me? A bit, but I think he was always a player who always listened to what managers were saying and took it on board, and I think he's learned, from those experiences and what he might do as a coach and a manager. And I know people are still comparing to what he did at the likes of, Celtic or Alloa or Blackpool or whatever it is.
Doesn't matter.
No, I think it's a bit like, in motorsport, you get guys that look okay in underpowered cars, and then you put them in the real McCoy and they're like driving the wheels off it. And I think maybe that's what's happened just now with Mr. Ferguson.
Well, I think he's done okay, to be fair, Stuart. So, we started the game. I thought we started the game absolutely brilliantly. The first half was amazing, to be quite honest. There's no other way to put it. We were brilliant, the aggression. I think I think aggression is the one thing that we've missed from this Rangers team, if you know what I mean, for the last couple of years when you're talking about old firm performances. I've not had that. We had that today, and then we got the goal from the corner. Nico Raskin, who, hands up again, I thought he was awesome today. He was the best player on the park. He gets the goal, and then it's almost like from there, the performance just, it just goes on from there, if you know what I mean.
I think the aggression that you talk about, it has to be a controlled aggression.
Yeah.
I think sometimes Rangers teams of late have had that aggression, but they've just allowed their hearts to rule their heads at times, and they've get carried away with either the situation or in terms of what they think they should be doing to the opposition. I think the way that he has it, and you can see it from the sidelines, he's always telling guys,
calm down.
Calm down. Yeah, that's an instruction that you see time and time again. Basically, just control yourself. It's also coming from Neil McCann. It's also coming from Wee Doddsy as well.
Doddsy.
So I think that's a kind of message they're getting over during games. And you're right. The first half, Rangers played really, really well. I think and everybody will have their favourites. And he did this and he did that and he did the next thing. Collectively, I thought they played really well from back to front. I don't think there was anybody you could say was, he's a bit a passenger. Everybody had their moments, but I think there were a couple of standout players over the course of the piece. I think you look at the midfield and where that fire in the belly was coming from, and they were all over the place. They were covering every blade of grass, they were making tackles, making challenges, and the big thing I think was they were actually making their presence felt. They weren't allowing Celtic to play their game. Okay, McGregor wasn't in the Celtic ranks, and people will say, well, is he that good? In that particular Celtic team, he is. And you have to give credit where credit's due sometimes. But I thought the Rangers, chased them and get after them, the opposite numbers, and it worked. And to be, the start they got was amazing. To then build upon that was even better. And again, it meant actually that even though things didn't go according to plan and meant a bit awry during the second half of the match, Rangers still had enough about them to understand that this is a bit of a hiccup, this is a bit of a setback. We can still go again, and that's exactly what they did.
Well, let's not talk about hiccups. I mean, we'll continue to talk about the first half. We'll continue to talk about the first half. We obviously scored the first goal. Honestly, sure, I genuinely think we could have been 3 or 4 up in the first half. I don't think I'm exaggerating saying that. The chances that we created, we eventually do get the second goal from Mr. Diamande. And fair play to him, by the way. He's somebody who, me personally, has slagged rotten for his domestic performances. I've always said, I think Diamande's got something about him for like the European games, but not domestic games. Well, to be fair to him, that was a domestic game today. Some finish, wasn't it?
It was a domestic game, but I would actually liken it to something that actually Rangers might face in Europe. If there's one team that are going to, play in a particular fashion, it's probably Celtic. Again, there are some players it takes a wee while to understand what it is to be playing for Rangers. And I did say when Barry Ferguson took over, the first thing he was going to have to instill was what I called Rangersness. I think there's been a
lack of it.
A lack of it, aye. I think different managers, it certainly with with Glenn, it was a feature of his time, his tenure, and I think it was the same with Philippe Clement. I don't think they actually got what it took to be playing for Rangers, and also what was expected of Rangers. I said on Twitter or X or whatever you want to call it, social media, let's call it, that over successive seasons, Rangers had made changes to the team to such an extent that they were doing well in Europe, and in effect, they had built a left-hand drive car for British roads. So when they were into Europe, they could adapt and look quite good. But when they were playing domestically in Scotland, they just looked all over the place because it was a different mindset, it was a different kind of game.
Yep.
And I think slowly but surely, Barry Ferguson and his coaching crew have explained what's been needed. For me, I would pick out maybe three or four players that I thought were exceptional. I thought the two centre backs again were tremendous. I thought Ridvan played well. I thought he made a huge difference. I think he's probably better defensively than Jeff did.
Yeah.
And also he with the rest of the team playing, and if he goes forward, somebody fills that void, that vacuum behind him, which wasn't always the case under Clement. People just were basically chasing the ball. It was like watching an under 11s game sometimes. And Diamanda, I think as well, and I would say the guy who in the last two matches has played a huge part has been Jack Butland, the goalkeeper. I think he made a couple of good saves, important saves, timely saves. Whereas, a couple of weeks ago, a couple of months ago, you just didn't trust him at all. He's whether it's settling down with a new child and all the rest of it, I'm not quite sure. But he seems to be back on his A game, and he made a couple of great saves, during the match today, having proved himself a match winner in midweek in the European tie. So I think those guys were key. But again, you would never talk about a Rangers performance at any level or any tournament just now without giving Mr. Cherney, the firefighter, a quick mention. He'll be out washing cars tomorrow morning or something. Anything to do with water sports. Control yourselves out there. But I think he was exceptional, and he was also very greedy and very hungry for the ball. He wanted it. He wanted it in so many different places. Go and look for it.
Don't mention the one. Stuart, please don't mention the one where he went basically. The one where Schmeichel kicked it out and he got it, and then all he had to do was shoot. And I was thinking, oh my God, all he has to do is shoot and it's in. And he has about 3 or 4 or 5 or 6 touches. But to be fair, he did make it up later on with the water sports, as you say, so I'll take it.
Somebody just mentioned here on the chat, is Craig needing his bed? Well, only if his bed's got a beer tap and an optic on it. That's the only way he'd be getting sent to bed just now. But no, I think Cherney. I said several weeks ago on the podcast about Cherney coming onto a game, and I thought it was because Tavernier was staying out his way. It's very difficult to be a winger when your full-back's charging past you every opportunity. Now that Tavernier's been told to hold his station a bit more, it allows Cherney to pile forward, and it also allows other people to come in to support him without getting in the road of the guy that's actually got the talent. So, all in all, an extremely good performance.
Absolutely. And I mean, starting the first half, I mean, that's the thing with Cherney. It's like, you go, oh, he's letting you down in the big moments, but he still shows up. Like, he was probably one of the best players in that team today, even though he still kind of lets you down in inverted commas at the big moments. But I mean, come on, sure, that bloody chance that he had, come on, that one when the ball came to him, all he had to do was shoot. It was nearly as bad as Thursday where he took the wee touch inside again.
Yeah. But listen, you football, and especially if you're a kind of talented player, is about confidence. His confidence levels are sufficient that he actually wants to see the ball now. He's not, he's desperate to actually play a part. And I think, ultimately, he's got to be congratulated for the performance. I know there were times where he didn't get it quite right. One or two of my friends are reminding me of what a fantastic game Tavernier had. That would have been, of course, up until he didn't do his job at the back post again.
Which, I don't know about that.
He didn't do any job at the back post, and not for the first time in his time at Ibrox. But Rangers got away with it, allowed Celtic back into the game. They took full advantage of that, but Rangers still had enough about them. And what amused me about the match-winning goal was all of this playing from the back keeper. Butland had just gone route one right up the pitch, caused panic and distress in the Celtic backline, guys falling over and all the rest of it. The Rangers get the break of the ball, which for a time looked like a beach ball and a tumble dryer. It seemed to be bouncing off his shins and legs and all the rest of it. But the finish was absolutely magnificent. And wouldn't have given any goalkeeper a chance. I have to say, I thought Schmeichel, for some of the older and more discerning listeners out there and viewers, he was doing a very good impersonation of Bobby Clark at Aberdeen in the 60s and 70s, who used to strike dramatic poses as the ball went past them into the net. And Schmeichel, if you look at him, you get a really good view of the first two goals. Not so good a view
he's always going like that. He's always pointing in the direction of someone else, isn't he?
He was kind of giving it the Bobby Clark used to do. But it was it was a fantastic finish for a fantastic goal and worthy of winning any match.
The thing is, Stuart, right? So that goal that you speak about, obviously, Egerman's winner. There was a wee bit of luck involved in that, and I'm talking about like the ball just breaking to him. Obviously, it comes over Butland, the wee duck for Johnson, etc., etc., and then eventually it just breaks to him. That wee bit of luck. Now, I mean, I've been the biggest slagger of this Rangers team for many a time, but we have just lacked that wee bit of luck. And I know I don't want to sound like, it's all about like, it's not. But sometimes, Stuart, you just need that wee bit of luck to go your way, and I think we got that today.
But it's not just the luck of the ball bouncing right for you. It's also the luck of in the right place and in the right place at the right time.
Yeah.
And today, Rangers got lucky with that. I mean,
but how many old firm games in the last 2 or 3 years have Celtic got that stroke of luck?
Well, it's still Gary player, isn't it? The better I get, the more luck I carry. And I thought Rangers were, this was a really good performance from Rangers again. And I thought as well, tactically, Barry Ferguson didn't settle for a team that was doing well and thinking, right, we've got to keep it like this. If you actually watched it, Rangers kept making very subtle changes to their kind of formation about who was drop them off, who was going, on which side of the sort of pitch they were playing on, and who was getting a free range or a free run to basically play anywhere. And that again is about guys who are really taking on board the kind of ethos, the message that Barry Ferguson's delivering.
But that's the thing you're saying, sure. That's good for Barry. Do you know what I mean? Because there's a lot of folk, and I mean, when Barry got the job, I mean, I was buzzing because under my heart, he's my childhood hero, best Rangers captain I've seen. Obviously, because I'm a young man, so he's the best Rangers captain I've seen. I love him to bits. but like you just even men older than me, like my dad has that blah blah blah. They all want to see him do well. Do you know what I mean? And it's like the one thing that I loved about him. See, after the Eagleman scored his third goal, you seen the celebrations before Cherny done his firefighting impression. Barry was running down the touchline, and then he grabbed the ball, and it was as if he was going to kick it. He went, "Oh no, I can't kick it." He just kissed it and went, because he obviously something in his head went, "I'm the Rangers
Yeah,
manager. I can't
yeah,
do that now."
yeah. And also,
Do you know what I mean?
I don't have a water bottle to spray people. But
You know what I mean?
yeah. I mean, listen, the daffy boy that I used to have to interview on sometimes a daily basis isn't a daffy boy anymore. He may have a bit, may have elements of that daftness in him, but he knows how to handle it now, and listen. He knows the importance on 2 counts. In fact, probably 3 counts. He knows the importance of getting this right whilst he's got this time at Rangers for his own CV and whatever happens in the future. He knows what it is to be a Rangers manager because he's watched other people in that role. He played under Walter, Dick Advocaat
as well.
So he knows the importance of that and what it takes to handle that kind of pressure. And also he knows he has to do a kind of rebuilding job with the Rangers team that he's got just now. Otherwise, there's no point in being there. And I think just now he's getting plus points in all 3 of those categories.
He is. He's been absolutely fantastic. I mean, what do you think, Stewart, anyway? I mean, he's done himself no favours trying to get the job in the summer.
Well, listen, if you based it in the last 2 matches, it wouldn't be so much of an interview process. It would just be a coronation because he would get it based on that. But again, you've got to remember there's a lot more going on behind the scenes. Are there better coaches out there? Most certainly, most definitely there are. Are they attracted to the Rangers job? Probably 1 or 2 of them are. But we have seen guys coming into Rangers who might have a fantastic CV and all the credentials and just not being able to cut it at that kind of level. And I'm not saying that Barry Ferguson in any way, shape or form is this next Walter Smith, but he'll understand what it is to be a Ranger and be at Rangers. And I think that's what he's instilling just now in almost every one of the players that he's actually managing and coaching.
Aye, I agree as well, Stewart. Somebody said to me earlier, they were talking about, get Gerrard back with Fergus as number 2. And I went, see, to be honest, I would take Gerrard back, but I went, I don't think Barry Ferguson would be happy being the number 2.
No, listen, there's a lot of things. I mean, when Souness left in 1991, there was seldom a year went past that his name wasn't mentioned about coming back to Rangers. And after a couple of years, you're thinking, well, is Walter Smith really going to just say, yes, on you go, Graham, it's your job, on you go, I'll just step aside and become your number 2 again? It's not that, there are a lot of things to be considered. Some people see it as Gerrard was there, regardless of what happened or what the stories were about what was happening in the background. He decided he was going to leave Rangers. Some people say you should never go back. Other people say you should never get a chance to come back. Would they be on any kind of waiting list? Yeah, probably. But again, you have got to wonder what the due diligence is, and I hope this time Rangers do it correctly, rather than just taking the first or the next cab off the rank and saying, "Yeah, you'll do it for us." Is difficult. Barry Ferguson has made a bad team play better. Whether he could make his own team play even better or turn in even better performances is quite another thing.
That's a fair point. He's done himself no favours anyway, Barry. But 2-0 in the first half, Stewart, we get into the second half. We're all saying the same thing at half time. Just let's see out the first 2, 3, 4, 5 minutes, and that'll be it. Of course, it's Rangers. We can't do that. Celtic go back quite quickly through Maida. There's a lot wrong with that goal. I think mostly Maida being the biggest man on the park to actually get up and get the head, for me personally. That's just not enough. But the thing that annoyed me was, see, about a minute beforehand, we had a free kick up on the left hand side of Parkhead. Tab was down, like injured, and then Sterling, instead of like just calming down and just doing what a normal Rangers squad would do at Parkhead, Sterling just whacked the free kick up. He's like that. Oh my god, we're going to go up whilst your captain's down injured, and I was like that. Oh my god, we're a wee bit worried coming into this second half, and yep. It felt that when they scored, and there was a lot of space in the middle. Raskin, who I did think was awesome, but need to give him a wee bit of criticism here, and Barron as well. So much space in the middle of the park. The ball gets put out wide. I think it's to Johnson, puts it in Maida, the smallest guy on the park, gets above about 3 Rangers defenders. I mean, we say it's a new thing, but we've seen it all before, haven't we?
I don't think Rangers covered themselves in glory at the start of the second half, or for a good bit of the second half. I think they actually, for whatever reason, I think they sat too deep, and without actually going forward. Okay, they had a bit. They held possession, but they didn't actually make any telling passes or cutting passes or move forward. They seemed to be happy just to hold on to the ball. Because of that, and they were playing in around about the midfield area. If they did lose the ball, Celtic were right on top of the Rangers almost immediately, and that just put them under more pressure. I think as the game went on, Celtic had a lot of the play and a lot of the possession, but I think they actually maybe opened up a wee bit too much trying to chase the game. And that's ultimately what gave Rangers a chance. Rangers started to busy themselves, started to make more challenges, and then put pressure on the Celtic backline. And ultimately, it resulted in a goal, and a very good goal at that. But it was a game where the things that Rangers did right, they did very well, and the things they got wrong, it was the same old. And in this occasion, I think it was a good result from a good performance, but it could have gone wrong at one point in time. It could have gone badly wrong, especially when you go from being 2-0 up to suddenly finding yourself all square and Celtic at home going on the front foot. But there was more about Rangers again and again, not just has Barry Ferguson surprised me. I think one or two of the players as well will have surprised people that they've actually a bit more steel and metal about them than they've ever shown in the last 12 months.
But that's the thing. You say steel and metal. That's exactly what I think as well. I'm going, where has this been? Where has this been for the last 12 months or so? I mean, we didn't see it against Queen's Park. We didn't see it in the league games. And the thing that, obviously, we've won at Parkhead today, it's fantastic. But at the same time, as Rangers fans, we feel a bit robbed because, I mean, look at the St Mirren Motherwell games. I mean, home and away for both of them. I mean, if those go in Rangers' favour, we're 2 points behind going into this after this game. So you're thinking, if they can do it tonight, Stuart, why can't they do it against St Mirren, against Motherwell? Why?
I'm trying to think of who I was on with in weeks ago and said, if Rangers win these next 2 matches and then beat Celtic in the Old Firm game,
wouldn't surprise you.
If beat Celtic at New Year, then they're only going to be so many points ahead. No, do you see it? And I said no, because the only thing predictable about this Rangers group under Clement is how unpredictable they were. I think now they're starting to put it together a wee bit more, and I think they're actually he's in there on an interim basis. But I do wonder if one or two, people are saying, "Well, just give it to Barry and all the rest of it." I do wonder if one or two of the players are already getting a vibe that maybe Barry Ferguson could be there for the.
Yeah, but sure, you see a vibe, right? I'm sure when Clement first came in and he got a tune out of him, they got a vibe. Back then, a year before that, when Michael Beale came in, they got a vibe off him. Before then, Giovanni Van Bronckhorst, they got a vibe off him. I'm not wanting the players to feel any vibes off them.
But I think there'll be a subtle difference between what Giovanni Van Bronckhorst or Clement or whoever it might be was instructing the players and the method and manner in which Barry Ferguson would deliver it. I think they might be one or two of them sitting there, and they'll be sitting there as well, thinking to themselves, "We don't know what's going to happen. Will we still be here next season, or is this basically a process of taking the chaff away and just leaving, the wheat?" I think there might be one or two guys who are still playing a part just now, who are definitely not going to be here after the summer. So I think the process of elimination has already begun. And I think there's one or two guys have lifted their game accordingly just to give themselves a chance.
Yeah, I can't disagree with that, to be honest. But Barry's no, I mean, he's done himself lots of favours. Can he say that he's no?
But then I'll be honest with you. Anybody could have gone in there and get more of a performance out of Rangers compared to where they were when Clement left. I mean, I was on X earlier on there. There's a Celtic fan on telling me that he didn't notice any difference between Rangers under Ferguson and Clement. Maybe it was just echoing.
You sure that wasn't the Celtic manager, not a Celtic fan?
Maybe it was just echoing what Brendan Rodgers had said. But the fact of the matter is, you've obviously not been paying attention. The first thing that you actually see is a difference in the character. And the character of the players. The players are actually playing for each other and playing for the team, whereas it just looked like a bunch of disjointed individuals prior to Ferguson coming in. And if that's the only thing he does between now and the end of the season, then you need to mark that down as a success.
I mean, if he can win the Europa League between now and the end of the season, I'll put that success as well.
Maybe you're needing more coffee.
No. Well, I'm going to go bowl in a few weeks anyway, so I'll take it. Anyway, Celtic eventually got back into the game with the equaliser. It's one of those ones where, sure, it's like, from a Rangers point of view, I thought Barron could have done better with shooting the ball, but at the same time, it's a good ball through by McCown, Hatate, it's a good finish, 2 each, whatever. But at that point, I think I was going, we're getting beat here. And I think, to be honest, if there's any Rangers fan out there thinking we were going to win 3-2 from the point where Celtic equalised, I'd like to meet you, because I don't think it exists.
I think Celtic gained confidence from when the first goal went in and how the first goal came about. I think they looked at it that this is just same old Rangers. If you poke them and press them hard enough, they're going to crack or they're going to fold. The second goal, there were mistakes in different places that led to the
thing is, sure, I think the second goal, I think, is a wee bit more quality. I think the first goal for me is the one that's just you can't. The second goal, there is mistakes, but I think the second goal is more of a better goal than the first goal, if you know what I mean.
Oh, it was, but then again, I think the second goal looked better because Celtic played through Rangers, but Rangers allowed them to be played through. And that's a kind of that's what I took from that. Listen, Celtic are playing at home. There's 55,000 Celtic fans cheering them on. Everybody looks at the effect that the fans have at Ibrox and the Rangers when they're playing in European games and all the rest of it. You'd be churlish to think that Celtic playing at home are not going to get the same kick or the same boost out of their fans cheering them on. And I thought it would be, seldom do you get an Old Firm match where a team completely and utterly dominates, unless it was maybe during the mid-90s when Celtic did that to Rangers and still lost. But it was Celtic were always going to come back into the game. I thought Rangers made it easy for them at times, but ultimately Rangers still had enough left in the tank and had enough determination to actually basically say, let's finish what we started today, and there's a win here for us.
Yep, and there certainly was a win there for us when Jack Buckland actually provided the assist. When you look back on it, with the massive goal kick, fantastic.
If you get somebody up front like Dessers, for all his faults and failings, who is putting himself about, I don't think centre halves today are made in the same way as they once were, where they're trying to put their head through the centre forward and through his head and through the ball at the same time. These guys are kind of jumping up and down and trying to make themselves look tough or look good. And I think, any kind of bump at it, and you saw that with it was almost like the domino effect. They hit one of them and they all keeled over. Hence the reason why Rangers ended up getting that opportunity.
And it was some opportunity that fell, thankfully, to Hamza Egeman. And oh my God, he rifled that right into the top bags. I mean,
he's done that a few times though. In recent weeks, I have to say, he's been there or thereabouts with shots, and you can tell he's whether he hits it on the volley or the half volley or whether he tees it up for himself. He is willing to take a crack and willing to take a pop. And I think any team that was basically thinking, we'll just let him hit it here and see what happens, I think you do that at your peril, and Celtic found out the hard way.
Well, this is the thing about Celtic today. I think they underestimated Rangers. I think today they went, Rangers are this and the next thing. We'll just come into this game. We're going to win it. We're going to win it comfortably. The thing is, Shorten, you don't know whether to spin this as a positive or a negative, right? But there's been 3 Old Firm league games this season. Rangers have won 2. Celtic have won 1. Rangers have got the better of Celtic this season, but we're still 13 points behind. I mean, does that tell you more about Celtic or does it tell you more about Rangers?
And also to kind of account one cup tie, regardless of how many goals you scored, it still wasn't enough. So
I know.
Listen, Celtic, I would say Celtic are still the better team. I don't think there's a gap that people think there is. It's there. I think the fact that Rangers have played so poorly and so badly against teams that they really should be seeing off. But again, I've said it on the show before. Rangers, when they're faced by 2 banks of 4 or 5 or whatever it is, they struggle to break teams down. They don't have the directness down the flanks. They dither. They don't have that kind of cutting edge or the guile to actually to work or play themselves through a block defence. And why did they succeed in Europe? Because teams actually approach the game where they actually want to win the game. Correct. And I think that's something that has to be looked at and understood this summer, regardless of who the manager is. That is something that has got to be corrected. Otherwise, you're going to end up with another season of frustration.
Well, speaking of summer, Stuart, a certain Mr. Andrew Kavanagh seemed to be in the stands at Parkhead today. Looks as if, unless he's just been going to Rangers games for the sake of it for the last wee while, looks as if that thing's going to happen. You'd hope that he'd be looking at that going, oh yeah, that was awesome. But at the same time, we need to make sure that we're going to be the most successful club in Scotland, continuing. Because the thing is with Rangers, okay, and look, we talk about Europe, and we're absolutely buzzing to go into the next round of the Europa League against Bilbao. But your bread and butter, Rangers are the Scottish League. We need to win the Championship every season. That is what you need to do at Ibrox. to be fair to Barry Ferguson, I think he knows that.
Well, it does. But the whole thing, I don't know. I don't think it's Kavanagh. I think if you're in America, it'll be Kavanaugh. You know, I'm still trying to, and I've spoken to a couple of people, and even they are looking at this and think to themselves, what's in it for any
But for them,
prospective buyers?
Yeah, I know.
If you have the most successful season or successful seasons, you might make just upward of 40 million quid through Europe and all the rest of it. If you're making an investment of 120 million plus to buy into Rangers, that's a minimum
3 to 5 years at least.
Correct. 4 seasons to get your dough back without adding in the extra investment. So,
and by the way, they're going to need to spend money to make sure that we've got a decent team to actually do that.
Correct. You know, suddenly, you know, I think Walter Smith was a bit of a miracle worker when he won the league title, you know, 3 times. But he won the league title 3 times in a spin without actually changing much. I
don't think he signed a permanent player. I think he signed Jerome Rolfen on loan, and that was it.
Well, that was you know, that was a miracle that he managed to get as much out of those players and out of that squad as he did, and keep them at a certain level as well. I don't see that happening again. But the whole thing, first of all, I'll believe it when it happens. You know, I think we've all either seen or written about these kind of things in the past. And then after that, it'll be of great interest to me to see how they decide what the next step is. The whole thing about Rangers being successful in Europe would be fantastic. It'd be great playing there every year. But to do that, you've got to be successful domestically. And that's the first piece in the jigsaw that Rangers have got to lay down.
Well, you say it's the first piece in the jigsaw. It's the most important piece of the jigsaw, Stuart. I think that's a good point to end up on. No, anyway, we'll be back in a couple of weeks. It'll be Robin Ross, the 20th of March, to preview the Dundee game on the Friday. Mr. Stewart, it's been an absolute pleasure, as always, to discuss a fantastic Rangers victory. The only one thing that's a wee bit of a downside is that I thought we would get a lot more views tonight. You know, I don't know why we've not got as many views as, you know, we would normally after an Old Firm game. Maybe it's because we won.
Well, maybe it's because of me. But just before we go, can I just say, sad to see the passing of Don Kitchenbrand, the Rhino. He was a player I never, you know, was way before my time as well, believe it or not. But I remember as a kid reading about him and being told different stories, and that my amazement that South Africa actually produced footballers, which wasn't something I actually realised at that time. But a great servant to Rangers, and there'll be maybe one or two out there who actually remember seeing him play. And again, I think you have to thank him for his service and everything he gave to Rangers.
Absolutely. Well, as I say, once a Ranger, always a Ranger. That's the way it is. We've seen that tribute earlier. So thank you, Mr. Weir, for joining us tonight. As I say, we'll be back on the 28th with Rob Arnos to discuss that game at Dundee. Thanks, guys. I'm glad your team won tonight. Cheery bye.